Good evening, children. Welcome to Turito, the school foundation program for IIT, JEE and NEET examination concerned. You know, I am your chemistry teacher, Dr. Sripada Rao. So, we have started discussing about the classification of matter on chemical basis. We have categorized the matter on chemical basis into pure substances as well as mixtures. We have started discussing about the pure substances, and within the pure substances we have started discussing about the elements, right. So, elements in one basis can be categorized as metals, non-metals and metalloids. Okay. We can categorize the elements into metals, non-metals and metalloids. So, today let us focus on these properties, okay. Metals, non-metals and metalloid classification, and where the metals are present, what are the properties of metals, what about the non-metals, where these non-metals are present in the periodic table, what are the different properties of non-metals, and what are metalloids, where these metalloids are present in the periodic table, what are the properties of these metalloids. We will come across all these things in our discussion today, okay. Let us start with the metals. In the last class I think we have focused on some of the concepts with respect to the metals, right. So, again just I am reminding the things that what we have discussed in the previous class with respect to the metals. If you observe, among all the elements in the periodic table, more than 75% are metals. So, maximum portion of the periodic table, maximum number of elements that are present in nature are metals only, maximum number, okay, more than 75%, right. And these will appear, where they are going to appear, they appear on the left side of the periodic table. When you look at the periodic table, I have shown you the periodic table in the last class. Toward the left side of the portion of the periodic table, we are going to have the metals only. These are solids, generally these are solids at room temperature. Exception is there with respect to the mercury, there is no doubt, okay. And when you observe the next properties, generally the metals will possess high melting and boiling points, because these are the elements which are solids at room conditions. Under room conditions these are solids, so they will have high melting and boiling points. The melting points and boiling points of the metals is very high because of their solid nature existing at room condition, okay. And they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Heat and electricity is conducted mainly because of the presence of electrons. So, the free electrons are present in this case metals, so therefore they are good conductors of heat and electricity, and they are malleable, they can be drawn into very thin sheets, okay, and they are ductile, they can be converted into thin wires, very small wire formation is possible from metals. Metal can be drawn into very thin sheet formation is malleability, wire formation is called as ductibility of metals, okay. And they react with the acids. When they react with acids, they are going to liberate hydrogen gas. So, hydrogen gas is going to be liberated when the metals are going to react with dilute acids, okay. So, let us observe the metals. You can see aluminium, cast iron, copper, combination of metals, brass, bronze, okay, steel. So, these are all the combination of metals. Combination of metals we call them as alloys, okay. So, alloy brass is a combination of copper and zinc, whereas bronze is a alloy of copper and tin, okay. So, this is how we can clearly look at the different elements existing in nature as metals, okay. Let us focus on the non-metals. What are non-metals? How many non-metals we have? We have about 1 dozen. What do you mean by dozen? Dozen means 12, okay. So, around 12 elements in the periodic table are non-metals. So, the value, how many elements we have in the periodic table? In the last class I told you, we have 118 elements in the periodic table. So, among 118 elements, how many elements are non-metals? Only 12 elements are non-metals. So, maximum portion is metals only, okay. And where they are located in the periodic table, if you observe right side in the periodic table. So, when you take the periodic table, you can observe the right side also at top side, okay. So, topmost right side is completely occupied by non-metals. So, the non-metals are present at the top right side of the periodic table, okay. And when you observe some of the examples like sulfur, nitrogen, selenium, bromium, bromine, okay, these are the examples of non-metals, right? These are usually gases. How they appear at room temperature? Generally they are gases. Not all the non-metals are gases. Most of them are gases like oxygen, nitrogen, okay, chlorine gas, fluorine gas. Most of them are gases. And of course, we also have the liquid. What is liquid? Bromine is a liquid. We also have a solid. What are the solid non-metals? Sulfur, carbon, okay, and phosphorus, iodine. They are all solids at room temperature, but most of them are gases. So these are usually gases at room conditions. Of course, there are some exceptions we have. Bromine is a liquid, iodine is a solid. There is no doubt. And because these are gases, most of them will have low melting and boiling points. So the boiling and melting points are also very low in the case of non-metals, okay, because they are existing as, most of them are existing as gases at room condition. So their melting and boiling points coming out to be very, very low, right? When you observe the conductivity, whether they conduct? No, most of them are not conducting. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, whereas non-metals are poor conductors of electricity. A material which allow the electric current to pass through them, they are called as conductors, okay. The materials which does not allow the electric current to pass through them, generally they are called as insulators. And we, between the conductors and insulator, we have semiconductors. Their conductivity can be increased by doping process. We will come across those things in physics as well as chemistry at a higher levels, okay. Don't bother about it, okay. Just observe that non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They won't allow electric current to pass through them, whereas metals will allow the electric current to pass through them, and they are going to be good conductors of heat and electricity. So let us observe these. Sulfur, a solid component. Nitrogen, we know it is a gas. Selenium can be taken, bromine. And let us look at some of the properties, physical properties of the metals and non-metals. We are going to compare, okay. Let us compare some of the properties of metals and non-metals. First one, the physical state. State means physical state, how they appear in the nature, physical state, okay. Physical state means the appearance, whether they are solids or liquids or gases. So that is what we are going to discuss. Metals, as I told you, most of the metals are solids at room temperature. At room temperature, they are solids. They are solids. But of course, there is an exception. What is that? There is an exception that we come across in the case of solid form of the metal. One metal is liquid. What is that? Mercury. Mercury is a metal, but at room condition it is a liquid. It is a liquid. So we have exceptions here and there. All the metals are, most of the metals are solids, but except the mercury. Mercury is a liquid, okay. And here non-metals, mostly gases. Most of them are gases, but even we can come across liquid non-metal. What is it? Bromine. Bromine is a liquid non-metal. Liquid non-metal, okay. And we can also have iodine, sulfur, phosphorus. They are all solids. They are all solids. Iodine is a non-metal, sulfur is non-metal, phosphorus is also non-metal, but they are not gases, they are solids. Bromine is also non-metal, but it is not a gas, it is a liquid. So there are some exceptions we come across, but most of them are gases like oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, fluorine. So most of them are gases, but few exceptions are possible. In the case of metals, most of them are solids, but we come across few exceptions. Mercury is a metal, but it is a liquid, okay, right. Coming to the next property, melting point and boiling point. Where we come across melting and boiling point? When a solid is converting into liquid, we come across melting point, right. When a liquid is converted into a gas, we come across boiling point. So the temperature at which a solid is converted into a liquid is called as melting point. The temperature at which a liquid can be converted into gaseous form is called a boiling point. Okay. So when you compare the melting points and boiling points, in that case metals generally have high melting and high boiling points. Metals will have very high melting and boiling points. But for example, in the case of sodium and potassium, if you observe, they are going to have low melting points and low boiling points. Low melting and low boiling points can be seen in the case of sodium and potassium. But example, in the case of gallium, if you observe, gallium will have low melting point, but of course it will have high boiling point. Most of the metals are solids. When most of the metals are solid, generally we expect high melting and boiling points. So melting points and boiling points are very, very high, but there are some exceptions we come across. Sodium, potassium, they will have low melting and boiling points. Gallium, if you observe, the gallium will have a low melting point around 29 degrees or 27 degrees centigrade, but it will have a high boiling point. So there are some exceptions we come across with respect to the melting and boiling points also in the case of metals. Some of the metals are having low melting points and boiling points, right. Coming to here, non-metals, low melting and low boiling points. Melting points and boiling points are very low for the non-metals. Non-metals will have low melting and low boiling points. Okay, right. So of course there are also some exceptions are present in the case of the melting points of the non-metals as well. Carbon generally will have a high melting and boiling points. Okay, and coming to the next property, the hardness. When you look at the metals and non-metals which are hard, generally metals are existing as solids at room conditions, so we expect them to be generally hard. So most of the metals are hard in nature, they are hard in nature. But of course we can write sodium and potassium, they are soft metals. Okay, sodium and potassium are soft in nature. Okay, generally most of the metals are, there is no doubt, they are all existing as solids, so we expect them to be very, very hard. Sodium and potassium, they are also solid, but they are very soft solids, they are soft. Okay. When you observe the non-metals, non-metals are generally brittle. That is to say that some of the solids which are existing in nature, they are as a non-metals like iodine, sulfur, phosphorus, if you observe, they are brittle in nature, they are little soft in nature, they are not that hard. But of course when you take the carbon in diamond, very hard. Diamond we know it is the hardest substance, right. Diamond is hardest substance. Diamond is made up of carbon atoms. What is carbon? Carbon is non-metal. So generally non-metals are very brittle or they will be soft, but of course there are some exceptions. We have carbon in the form of diamond is the hardest substance known as, right. Similarly we can also have the boron. Boron also exhibits some hard nature because of the presence of the structure. Okay, the structural formula or the structural component lead to the hard substance formation from the non-metals as well. Okay, so in general when you observe, in generally we can say that metals are very hard, non-metals are soft, but of course there are some exceptions. Some metals are soft, some non-metals are very hard. Okay, right. Coming to the conductivity. Conductivity is mainly because of the presence of electrons. So when we have electrons with us, whenever we have electrons with us, in that case because of the presence of free electrons, conduction of heat and electricity possible. Okay, so conduction of heat and electricity is possible because of the electrons presence, right. So when you observe the metals, metals are generally good conductors of heat and electricity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, but of course we also come across some exceptions in this case. Tungsten is a bad conductor generally. Okay, so good conductors of heat and electricity, metals generally have the valence electrons. Because of the valence electron presence, they are good conductors of heat and electricity, but of course we come across some exceptions as well. Some metals, though they are going to be very poor conductors, they are not good conductors at all. Okay, of course Most of them are good conductors, there is no doubt, but they we come across some exceptions here and there where they are not good conductors. And if you observe here, non-metals, they are bad conductors of heat and electricity. They are bad conductors of heat and electricity. So most of the non-metals are bad conductors. They won't conduct because they won't have the free valence electrons. Free valence electrons are not present in the case of non-metals, and because of that their conductivity is very, very low. But of course we have some exception as well. For example, if you take graphite, what is graphite? Graphite is also one of the allotropy form of carbon. As I told you, diamond is made up of carbon. Diamond is one allotrope form of carbon. Graphite is also one allotropic form of carbon. Diamond is the hardest substance known, and graphite, which is made up of only carbon atoms. What is carbon atom? Carbon element is non-metal. Carbon is non-metal. So graphite is made up of carbon. So we can expect it should be a bad conductor, but graphite is a good conductor. Graphite is a good conductor. So graphite is a good conductor. It is made up of a non-metal, that is carbon. Though it is made up of non-metal, it is a good conductor. So graphite is a good conductor. So we come across here and there some exceptions. Most of the metals are good conductors, but we come across some metals which are pure conductors. Most of the non-metals are bad conductors of heat and electricity. They won't conduct the heat and electricity. They won't allow the electricity to pass through them. So they are bad conductors. Okay, but exception is there in the case of non-metal also. Graphite made up of carbon is a good conductor, right? Okay. Shiny nature. Lustre means shiny nature. So shining property. Shining property, if you observe, metals will have shiny nature. So most of the metals are, they are shiny, but of course we have some exceptions in this case also. Most of the metals are showing shiny property. They will have, or they will shine when light falls on them. Okay, so they have shiny nature. And when you observe here, non-metals, most of the non-metals are non-shiny, so they won't show any shiny property. Shining property is not seen in the case of non-metals. But of course we have an exception in this case. Iodine generally exhibit the shiny nature. So whenever light fall on iodine, so automatically the iodine shines. Iodine is a non-metal, but it will show shiny property. So the properties that we have mentioned here are with respect to the most of the elements. So most of the metals, they have shiny nature. Most of the non-metals, they won't have shiny nature. But of course here and there we come across some exceptions with respect to the properties of these metals and non-metals. Okay, right. One more property, as I told you, malleability. Malleability, the property of metals by which they can be drawn into, or they can be made into thin sheets. So thin sheet formation, okay, thin sheet formation, generally we take it as malleability. Malleability means the property of the metals by which we can beat them into very thin sheets. We can make a thin sheet from the metals, but metals only show this particular property. Malleability is seen with respect to the metals, but of course non-metals, if we observe, they are non-malleable. What are they? Non-metals are non-malleable. That is to say that non-metals cannot be beaten into thin sheets. We can make thin sheets of metal, but not about the non-metal. I think you have come across the copper sheets, right, at your home, right? Iron sheets, iron and copper, they are all metals, but non-metals, we cannot make them into the sheety form or the malleability. So the malleability is not present in the case of non-metals. Metals will show the malleability property. So metals are malleable, non-metals are non-malleable. What is malleability? Malleability is the property by which we can make them into thin sheets. We can beat them. So if you go on beat it, automatically it will expand and a thin sheet is going to form. That is called as malleable property. So malleability is seen with respect to the metals, it is not seen with respect to the non-metals, right. What is ductility then? Ductility means wire formation. Wire formation. So we can make a wire out of a metal. I think you have seen at your homes how the bulb is glown, or how the TV is working, how the fridge is working, how the grinder is working. Have you ever observed? So we have a connection through a wire. So have you observed anything inside the wire? Yes. So inside the wire, if you observe, you can clearly see that the inside we have a very thin wires. So the thin wires are metal wires only. Okay. So they are all metals. Okay. So if we observe, what is ductility? Ductility is the wire formation. How we are going to get the wire? So wire formation, the property of the metals by which we can draw them into wire. I think the girl students are very interested in gold, right? So how the gold ornaments are made? So the gold ornament, very thin wire is drawn, right? Very thin one. For example, if you want to prepare the earring, how you can see the wire of the gold? It's very thin. So metal, what is gold? Gold is a metal. Metals will have generally the ductility. So because of the ductility property of the gold, it can be made into very thin wire. Okay. So thin wires, the property by which we can make the material into a wire is called ductility. Metals are ductile. Metals are ductile. Metals can be easily converted into very thin wires, but when you observe the non-metals, non-metals are non-ductile. Non-metals cannot be converted into wires. Wire formation, thin wire formation is not possible in the case of non-metals, but we can see in the case of metal. The best example is silver, gold. I think you have seen gold. Gold is generally having a very thin, for example, if you take earrings, the thin wire is there, right, for connecting the ring. So here the thin wire formation is mainly because of the ductility property of gold. What is gold? Metal. So metals will have ductility. So metals possess ductility as well as malleable property, whereas non-metals are non-malleable as well as they are non-ductile. They cannot be, non-metals cannot be converted into sheets, they cannot be converted into wires, but metals can be converted into thin sheets, metals can also be drawn into a thin wire. Okay, right. Let us see one more property, the last but the not least one, very important one, sonorous. What do you mean by sonorous? So it is sonorous means producing the sound. Okay. So generally which elements produce sound? I think you have observed, when you hit the iron rod will produce the sound. So metals will be producing the sound. They are called as sonorous material. Metals are sonorous, whereas non-metals are non-sonorous. That is to say that when you beat them, the ringing sound is not produced by the non-metals, but when you beat a metal, metal produces the ringing sound. I think in your school, the bell is given for every period. The morning session at the assembly time, as well as each and every period change is indicated through the bell, right? So how the bell is going to be ring there? So we have an iron rod and we have iron stick. So but that they will produce the sound. So the ringing sound is produced because of hitting. Okay. So when metals produce the ringing sound, metals are generally taken as sonorous. So metals are sonorous, but non-metals are non-sonorous. Sonorous means it is the ability to produce a ringing sound. Ringing sound is only produced when they are beaten by, the metals will produce the ringing sound when they are beaten up, but non-metals, most of them are gases. Bromine is a liquid and a few are solids, but of course those solids won't produce any sound, and therefore we call them as non-sonorous. So these are the properties that we can come across with respect to the metals and non-metals. Let us look at the metalloids. What are metalloids? Metalloids, if you observe, these are the elements which exhibit the properties of both metals as well as non-metals. These are the elements which are going to exhibit some properties with respect to the metals, some properties with respect to the non-metals. In other words, we can say that these are the elements which exhibit metal properties and as well as non-metal properties. Not all properties, some properties of metal and some properties of non-metal. So these are the elements which exhibit the properties of both metals and non-metals. They are termed as metalloids. They are termed as metalloids. General metalloids that we come across: germanium represented with the Ze, arsenic, As, antimony, Sb, tellurium, Te, selenium, Se. Okay, so we can take germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and selenium generally considered as the metalloids. Okay, and these are going to be the bridge. These are going to form a bridge between metals and non-metals. So between the metals and non-metals, these are going to form a bridge. Therefore, they are going to show the properties of both metals as well as non-metals. So metal properties are observed in these elements, non-metal properties are also observed in these elements. So therefore we call them as, these are the elements having metal property as well as non-metal property. So we call them as metalloids. So the metalloids, if we observe, tellurium, arsenic, germanium, antimony, you can clearly see the pictures are given here, they are all solids, tellurium, arsenic, antimony, germanium. So these are all metalloids that we come across. Okay. So if we observe the periodic table, metals are going to occupy, how many elements are there, how many elements are metals in the periodic table? More than 75%, more than 75% are metals, and they are occupying the left side of the portion. If we observe the periodic table, this is the periodic table. Okay. So if we observe the periodic table, left portion is completely occupied by metals. So if you observe the first A group elements, they are all alkali metals. Second A group elements, alkaline earth metals. So if you observe this area, the light blue colored area, these are known as transition metals. These are transition metals. So these two columns are metals and this total portion is metal. And if you observe here, these are all also inner transition elements, most of them are all metals. Okay. So these are also metals. So this total portion is metal. And if you observe aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium, these are also metals. Okay. So here if you observe tin, lead, also metal, bismuth is a metal. So this total portion is also metals up to this area. Okay. So we can take from here this way. Okay. So this is the area by which we can consider them as metals. So this total area is metals only. Okay. So here you can up this one, of course this area, leave with the green area. Okay, light green area, below the light green area whatever we have, the total are metals, all these are metals. Therefore 75%, more than 75% of the elements that are available are metals. So this total portion is metal. Okay. But what about non-metals? Non-metals are, we have only one dozen elements are generally non-metals, and where they are occupying their position, right side top portion. So this is the periodic table right side top portion. If we observe here, you can clearly see. So these are non-metals. So this green area and this brown area, this is the only area where we can find non-metals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So only 12 elements, around 1 dozen elements are non-metals. What about these ones? These are noble elements. They are neither considered as the metals and non-metals. Okay. So here this is the area where we have 12 elements, they are non-metals, and in between this is metal area and that is non-metal area. In between we have a light green colored. This light green color is the area of metalloids. So here this way you can observe germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, polonium, you can take, these are all the non-metals, sorry, metalloids. They are all metalloids. Metalloids forming a bridge. You can clearly observe this total portion is metals and that portion is non-metals. In between metals and non-metals we have a one area where the elements will exhibit the properties of metals as well as non-metals. So they can be considered as metalloids. Metalloids are present as a bridge between metals and non-metals. This side we have metals, that side we have non-metals. In between the metalloids are bridge. So the property changes from metallic to non-metallic by through these elements. Okay, and therefore we call them as metalloids. Students, I think you have enjoyed today's class with respect to the metals, non-metals and metalloids, where they are exactly located in the periodic table. We will come up with some more interesting topic in the next class. Until then, have a nice time. Thank you.